ever want to be a college football coach? Prepare to set a lot on planes, because that's what's going on right now with the Penn State coaches. They are all across America seeing recruits during the January open period, although they are filtering back towards State College and Happy Valley for Junior Day, which is coming up tomorrow, and that's why Ryan Snyder is on the show. Also, I always enjoy hanging out with Ryan. That's why he's on the show. Like to end the week this way. So, Ryan, how you doing?
What a nice guy. I enjoy hanging out with you, too. I'll be better when the contact period's over, right? I mean, we're halfway through it. It's nonstop every day, but I can't complain, right? I mean, coaches are literally crisscrossing the country, and I'm sitting here in my basement. So, next subject.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to talk about where they've been, where they're going on the BWI Daily Edition, but also Junior Day coming up tomorrow. There are a couple of them left, so we want to get insight into who's going to be on campus, the names to know, and all of that stuff. So, let's just start there. What are the names people should know about this Junior Day list, and some of the players coming to Happy Valley that should keep your eye on?
Yeah. So we're looking back to last weekend. There was, 19 scholarship guys, I believe it was, and around 30 players total. And when I look forward to the January 29th Junior Day, I think that's going to be something similar, where Penn State's trying to get as many elite guys on campus as they can. This one's definitely going to be down a bit more compared to those when it comes to true scholarship talent. As of now, I have, let me see here, guys with an offer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we may add, but by the time tomorrow rolls around, we may add a couple of them. But it's, a solid list of guys, but you don't have too many of those deep 4-star players this week. And I think what Penn State's trying to do here is, in the past, they have had a Junior Day, usually in January, where it was mainly about the walk-ons that they were trying to bring on campus. And that's going to be another theme of this Junior Day. You're going to have probably about a dozen or so guys who are 2020 guys that are going to be up here and spending time with the staff. And usually in past years, they kind of had their own Junior Day. I know we're calling it Junior Day. Obviously the walk-ons are seniors, but they had their own get-together, we'll call it, right? And I think because we didn't have I know recruiting's been back since June, but because we missed out on last January, I think they're kind of combining it this year, so that there are still quality guys. But this one is going to be a bit more on walk-on guys and guys emerging up through the ranks. So to actually answer the question of who's going to actually be here, a couple guys to keep an eye on. I think Kenny Johnson, a lot of fans are familiar with now, wide receiver out of Dallas Town, somebody I'm pretty high on. I feel, I've said this for a while, if Kenny Johnson was just a little bit faster, I feel like he'd have a dozen offers by now, maybe more. West Virginia and Rutgers recently offered, so he's adding some Power Fives, and Penn State was one of the first schools to jump on board. But when you watch his film, everything else is there. He's just not a speedster. Mm-hmm. So I'll actually look forward to maybe getting to see him at a camp this year and getting official time on what his speed is, because he's incredibly gifted at high pointing the ball, great hands. I mean, route running's precise. There's a lot of things to like there. Just isn't one of those guys that usually can break away from a safety. So anyway, a couple other guys. Anthony Brown, Minnesota commitment from Springfield, Ohio, is expected to come in. Brown, he's been committed to Minnesota, I believe, since the beginning of September. But I know he's been talking to Penn State for a while now, because I've had a couple times over the last year where I was expecting him to come for a game or some sort of visit, and I don't believe he's ever made it. I believe this will be his first time. But I know, just from talking to people, there's definitely been a lot of conversations there, and he's been wanting to get on campus. So as of now, I'm expecting that to happen. D. Creighton is a really interesting linebacker prospect that I didn't really know a ton about until this past week. I interviewed him, Wednesday night. And boy, this kid's, I've really enjoyed talking to this kid. He's a really smart young man, pretty much an honor roll student, 3.4, 3.5 GPA. A lot of solid offers down south. Yeah, he's missing out on, he's from, right outside Atlanta. He's missing out on some of those really elite offers, the Georgias, the Alabamas, but Auburn's very much in the mix, Florida State, Arkansas. He has those quality offers, but not those elite offers yet.
Right.
On3 has him as a 4-star player, 235 nationally according to consensus. We have him listed at 6'1.5", 222 pounds. So looks like a solid Mike. Maybe I'd have to see him run. Maybe he could be a Sam or a Will. I'm not exactly sure. But the linebacker board is really loaded this year. So I was I didn't know how interested Penn State was, and after talking to him, there's definitely a good relationship there. He said he's FaceTiming with Franklin about once every week or two, so that's a pretty good ratio compared to some other guys I've gotten to know. Just looking through the list, go ahead.
Quick question about that, actually, because something that you and I have talked about previously, and something that has been brought up to me a couple times by some of the people in the Lions Den message board is the linebacker position in general. Is Penn State going to go heavy after that position, do you think? And is that a factor in kind of their interest in him?
No, when you look at the scholarship board, they need transfers.
Yeah.
I think anybody who's seen the scholarship board that Dave put up this past week, they need sophomores and juniors. Guys who maybe if they don't have real long game experience, they've been in a college program for a year or two, or at least have some kind of experience, because it's very thin. When you look at the upperclassmen. So I think it really depends on what we see from now to May when guys can enroll. Of course, classes are more than a week in now, so you can't add anybody, and which is unfortunate for Penn State, because a lot of schools down south and elsewhere won't be beginning classes really until this upcoming week. So they've had basically 2 extra weeks to add players. So
yeah, the defensive tackle from Miami just yesterday committed to Arizona State. So those moves are still happening across the country, but it's kind of locked down here.
Holmes.
Yep, Des Holmes.
Des Holmes committed to Arizona State too. So
yeah.
So we will see. I mean, to me, I would think that they would love to get some guys that can contribute above adding high school freshmen, especially guys that can't sign and wouldn't be here for a whole another summer. But if they're not really able to do that, you gotta fill the gap somewhere, and I'm sure they would probably take a few more. To me, like for the offensive line, I feel like they're going to take transfer guys no matter what, and they've been pushing so hard that everything shouts that the 2023 offensive line class isn't going to really impact the transfer guys. Now, linebacker, I don't quite get that vibe yet. I mean, maybe I might just be wrong, and they might be completely separate. I mean, obviously, from a projection standpoint, they don't really have anything to do with each other. But right now, I would think at least 2 quality linebackers, probably more like 3 when you look at the depth in the class.
Yeah.
And if they're able to add some transfers, maybe that would just be 2. But it's an important position, no doubt.
Yeah. So other names you were about to mention on the list, 1 or 2 that you think are important for Penn State fans to know.
So Dominic Nichols is a 2024 player that really interests me. Penn State seems to be incredibly high on him, and I'll be honest, I didn't know a whole lot about him about a month ago, and Penn State offered, I think it's been about 10 days or so, maybe a little bit longer now. I got to talk to him the other night. He's actually been to a whiteout game before, attended one of the Ohio State whiteout games, just as a fan. But his recruitment is incredibly new. I mean, I think he's got all 4 of his offers within the last couple of weeks, and I was trying to talk to him, get a feel for how active he's been, and it really hasn't been much. I mean, everything's just going through his coach, and then he calls coaches here and there, but and that's how it is for a lot of these 2024 guys. Penn State won't be able to contact them until the beginning of September this year. So, but he's definitely a player to watch. I had somebody mention to me that they think he could be a kind of like a top 150, top 200, 4-star kind of player once he's able to get out to camps and just kind of get his name out there more. I don't really know where Oakdale is in Maryland, so I think it's kind of a smaller school, and we'll see how he progresses with time. Just one other guy then who doesn't have an offer yet, and I want to mention him, is Cole Surber. He's from Patriot High School in Nokesville, Virginia. Manny Diaz and Anthony Poindexter, I believe, were expected to stop by his school on Thursday. So they're stopping by his school, and now he's coming on campus. So when I see those things, when you're going to a school right before a player is expected to come visit you, that tells me there's real interest there.
Yeah.
And now when you pull up his size then too, we have him listed at 6'6", 265. T. Frank, what's that say? He's a tackle.
He's a tackle. Right? Look at
He's
that.
He's a tackle.
We've got one.
So of course, well, let's see what he weighs in and measures that after his Penn State visit. That's when he'll be 6'3.5" and 280 or something like that.
29-inch arms.
No, actually, I've talked to Cole a little bit. He seems like a great kid. He doesn't. everybody adds an inch. Don't get me wrong, but I don't get the sense he's somebody vastly inflating his numbers. Some guys do. I don't think Cole's one of them. But anyway, I mean, we know they need tackles. They're, like I said, going to a school 2 days before the kid's supposed to visit, and then when you pull up his scholarship chart, man, I mean, it's got a quality offers from Tennessee, West Virginia, South Carolina, Virginia, Pitt, Maryland. I mean, there's Kentucky. Kentucky's a good offensive line school too. Yep. There's some signs there that this could be somebody Penn State's going to offer. So doesn't have an offer yet, but by Saturday night that might be different.
And speaking of offensive linemen and some people that do have a commitment from Penn State football and that have committed to Penn State football, your conversation with Alex Birchmeier over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, I highly suggest that you read it. What's that? You can't because it's a Plus article? Seems like a great time to go sign up and spend one of your American dollars for 12 months of access. $1 gets you an entire year's worth of time. Now, time is the most precious commodity in the world, and you just bought it for a song. So go do that right now. You can read the conversation between Ryan and Alex, and he is an impressive kid, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. You can, if you have Canadian dollar too. You said if you have an American, I think Canadian dollar will accept that as well.
Oh yeah,
but yeah. No,
I don't know if we're taking Bitcoin yet, though.
Hey, I'll take it. You can send it my Venmo. I don't know anything about Bitcoin, but I'll take it. I'll take some. But no, Alex is awesome, and it's been so long since I caught up with him. That's kind of why we did it. I know he's an excellent wrestler. Of course, he was Virginia's heavyweight champion last year, and he's definitely on pace to get another gold medal this year. I don't want to jinx him though, so I'll knock on wood here if I just jinxed him. But Alex is just awesome, man. He's got his head on straight. I mean, all of his answers are excellent. I asked him, who he kind of models himself after. Landon Tangwall was his answer. I thought fans would love that.
Yeah.
And then, I asked his favorite thing about the recruiting process, and he said getting it over with so he can focus on just getting better. Which I was like, oh my God, you're perfect already, Jesus.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of good answers there, and incredibly mature kid for his age. But it was good catching up with him, and there's a lot of good stuff in there about who he's recruiting and how wrestling helps him. And we had some fun too, just kind of getting to know him more. So check it out. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I loved his answers, especially when you were asking him some stuff about his game and how he wants to improve and how wrestling translates and all that stuff. He has all of the right answers. So for Penn State football fans, again, with the offensive line and the conversations about Phil Troutwine, it's like, you got to see this kid. Like, even if you don't go watch T. Frank's Film Room, if you want to go watch the Huddle highlights, whatever, definitely check out Alex Birchmeier. It's going to start to shape your opinion in a different way about what Penn State is building on the offensive line, and with the guy you mentioned, like Landon Tangwall. So with coaches all over the country, you mentioned a couple of guys at a couple of different places. Can you give us a little bit more information about where maybe James Franklin has been and some of the other assistant coaches and some key visits they may be making? Who's where right now?
Mm-hmm. So they spent basically Tuesday and Wednesday in the South, and I think Wednesday was 8 different states. And Manny Diaz was in Alabama checking out some top defensive guys. James Franklin was in the North Carolina area. I believe he was there with Howe and Mike Yurchich checking up on some guys. So they were all over Wednesday, just really in the South, from Florida to Georgia. I'm trying to think, what were some other states? Stubblefields was up in Michigan. I mentioned Florida, Alabama, North Carolina. It was primarily in the South. Thursday, and one other interesting visit on Wednesday was that Franklin came up north then to Pittsburgh to watch Quentin Martin and Rodney Gallagher play a basketball game against each other. Those two are right up there at the top of Penn State's recruiting board for their respective classes. Rodney Gallagher, if he's not their top receiver, he's right up there. And whoever their top guy is probably one of those national freak of an athletes that Penn State needs to get on campus. And then Quentin Martin, I mean, I've said this before, I've had people inside Lash tell me that Quentin Martin might be the best athlete in Pennsylvania since Micah Parsons. So
he's 2024, right?
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Quentin's got 2 more years to go. He's an athlete. We have him listed as an athlete. I think he's going to be a running back, but he could be a linebacker. I mean, he
could play anything. I remember you told me about him during the football season. So I usually don't go watch the film until they commit to Penn State, but you piqued my interest. And, class of 2024, so he's a 9th grader on the field or a 10th grader on the field?
He was a 10th grader this year.
10th grader. And he's larger than everybody else in 10th grade and looked like a college football player in 10th grade. So, again, one of those we talked you talk about one of those national bizarro athletes. It's what he looked like. So yeah, very important prospect.
Yep. So then on Thursday, we'll get into some of the Thursday stops then. Franklin stayed in Pittsburgh because he was there, of course, Wednesday night. Lamont Payne, Anthony Specca, Tamir Brown, over to Aliquippa to see some of the young guys like Cameron Lindsay and Tyke Hayes. I know Mike Yurchitz and Taylor Stubblefield were out in Detroit to check out on Dante Moore. Dante Moore has been Penn State's top quarterback prospect in 2023 for a while now, and I don't see that changing. It's not going to be easy to get him, especially if Harbaugh stays in Michigan. I think they have an edge, but Penn State's in the mix there. We'll see what happens. I think they can get an official, but it's not going to be easy. Troutwine was back in North Jersey. I mean, you'll always find him up there. Guys like Chase Basantis, of course. I mean, I think he stops at Chase Basantis school like every week during the December contact period, and now it's pretty much in the January one. I'm sure he'll be there next week at some point too. I mentioned Manny Diaz and Anthony Poindexter stopping to see Cole Surber. In that same area, you'll find Fairfax. Unity Reed is another one too. Tony Rojas is one of Penn State's top three or so linebacker prospects in this class. They stopped in to see him, and Amari Campbell is an interesting up and coming linebacker in 2023 that they stopped in to see. So that was kind of the gist of Thursday. There's other things like Jaywan Sider was in the Richmond area. Ty Howe was just going through public schools in Maryland. I know John Scott's down in Tampa. I don't know exactly who he was seeing. I do know Stacy Collins, of course, the new special teams coordinator. Joe Lorig always oversaw Orlando, and now Collins has been down there. I believe he was there Wednesday and Thursday. And to me, him spending 2 days there that's going to become his primary recruiting territory, at least in Florida. So he's probably just building different relationships with different coaches, not really there to see specific players, but just kind of, hey, this is going to be my area. This is going to be important to us. Let's get to know each other kind of thing. So the Friday visits we'll leave to the message board or, to our premium subscribers. But, it was a good week, down south in the beginning, now kind of up more in the area. And next week will be important too. They're going to go see a really important 2022 prospect way out west. I think we're going to get into here in a minute.
What and just quickly about Stacy Collins. I know that he's new to the staff and you build relationships with these guys. I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to him personally yet, but what is the impression you've gotten from the staff about him as a recruiter and what he does out there to find talent for Penn State?
Okay, do you want me to just make stuff up right now? Because I have no idea.
Okay.
I have not asked. I couldn't tell you, man. When we get into February, I'll have maybe a little more time to ask around about that stuff. But, right now it's just been all about trying to build these junior day lists and track down where all these coaches are going.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I throw you a curveball and we hit it out of the park, and sometimes I hit you with it, and sometimes that's just the magic of almost live television. So
I've tried before to think quick and come up with something, and then usually I listen to it back and I'm like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? Just say you don't know. And I've learned over the years to always just be honest, man, because when I was younger I used to always just I feel there's so many people in our industry that just can't admit that they don't know something.
Yeah.
Especially scout wise, they always. I just over the years, I feel like a lot of my colleagues they always know, who they're in the loop with this kid or whatever it is, and I think people just appreciate when you say you got to learn more, and that's what I'll always do.
So speaking of learning more, since the last time we talked, there is a prospect out west that Phil Troutwine is interested in. Offensive lineman for the class of 2022. So I'm going to let you
pronounce his name to you, Frank. Go. No, you.
Vega Ioane is what I'm going with.
Hey, that's a good one. It's either that or Leone. I'm not sure. I think it's an I started, but whether you pronounce it as an L, I'm not exactly sure. But I'll get into the point though. Here, we Penn State has offered him, and he's pretty much the only 2022 high school prospect that they seem to be really pushing hard for. We are expecting him to take an official visit here next weekend, January 29th, 30th range, from Graham, Washington. I'm not exactly sure where Graham is. I'm not sure if it's close to Seattle or not, but he's going to be making the trip, or at least that's the plan, is for him to make the trip. And then I'm also expecting, the other news I learned this week is that I'm expecting Troutwine to fly out there on Monday. So if it's not Monday, it'll be Tuesday. But I know it's going to be very early in the week. I believe it's going to be Monday. And that will be, I believe, an in-home visit. And then I'll be curious to actually see if Franklin's going to make that too, because he won't be able to make an in-home visit after. And, of course, Franklin only gets one in-home. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's James and Troutwine, but I do know that Troutwine is expected to be there. I believe it's Monday, if not Tuesday.
So the priority seems to be there. I mean, obviously, offering somebody this late in the process, a lot of this stuff gets condensed, but what's your sense of the priority of signing him if they can by that traditional deadline?
It's hard. It's hard to really know because it's not like he's opening up to anybody right now. There's not first off, he's at the Polynesian Bowl right now. Obviously way out in Hawaii. So we're on like a 7-hour time difference at the moment. I just haven't seen too many interviews with people from him out there. The Poly Bowl is always kind of mysterious, right? Like people go out there, but like I never see a lot of,
because nobody's sending Ryan Snyder all the way to Hawaii to do his job. That's the problem.
Someone brought that up on our message board the other day. It was like, Ryan, don't you want to go to Hawaii? Like, dude, if I'm flying 21 hours round trip to Hawaii, like I am not working 10-hour days. Like I'm sorry. Like I'd rather you send me to Bismarck, because if I got to work the whole time, like, no, that's not gonna fly. So I don't expect myself to ever go to the Poly Bowl. But back on subject, I say this. I think Penn State feels like they are off to a good start with that relationship. They wouldn't have offered him if they didn't think that it was actually a realistic opportunity to land him. And, he's expected to come for an official visit. So all three of those things are positive. But I'd be lying if I said I really understood who else is in the mix. We know he decommitted from Washington. I don't believe he was anywhere on the 15th. And I know he's at the Poly Bowl now, so he's not going to be anywhere this weekend. So if Penn State is that one school that gets him for an official visit before everything shuts down and signing day rolls around that following week, that's obviously a great sign.
Yeah.
But who else is really pushing hard for him at the moment? I wish I had an answer for, but we will see what happens. I know Penn State's going to put their best foot forward.
It certainly is interesting and mysterious, and to completely derail us again, fun fact, the reason I wanted to get into broadcasting originally was because I watched the Pro Bowl as a kid, and I thought it was so fun, and I thought I could get a trip to Hawaii. Now it's in Orlando? Now it's in Orlando, and I'm like, I don't want to go to Florida. Like, I wanted to go to Hawaii. But no, now that dream was shattered 10 years ago, also with the fact I never, covered the NFL ever in my career. So, but is there anything else that's on your radar that we didn't talk about? Any other prospects or any other things coming up that Penn State fans should know about?
Just the transfer portal. Of course, Hunter Norzad's going to be up here this weekend for his official visit. We know Virginia Tech will be midweek, I think the 25th, I want to say. And then Iowa will get the last chance on the 28th, 29th, 30th, kind of in that range. So, all indications have been that Iowa probably has the edge just from their kind of history. And this is kind of all talk from sources more than like Hunter really talking about it. So, and the fact that he's taking all 5 officials tells me that he probably has a lot more to figure out than what people really know. But the talk, at least, was always Iowa and Penn State probably has the best chance to knock them off. I do know that Brent Pry and Virginia Tech are going hard after him. That's been something that people have been talking about more and more. So I'm curious to see how that Va Tech visit goes on the 25th. And of course, I'll be very curious to see the feedback we get from Penn State. I've had a couple texts with him, but nothing, that I can really, write a full story on. I know he said he was impressed with, how Penn State was able to take Eric Wilson and get him into their system. Obviously, he's from Cornell, so he looks at the former Ivy League connection there. But yeah, only time will tell. And of course, Hunter's not going to be joining his next school until May because he's going to graduate from Cornell first, which of course anyone should. So I don't know when we're going to have a decision either. It could drag out a couple more weeks. It could drag out months. I would think that after he wraps up these visits, it wouldn't be too long. But right. Only time is really going to tell. Of course, Tyler Steen, then, of course, the Vanderbilt tackle. I'm trying to get a feel for when he might take an official. Haven't been able to learn much there yet, but we will ask around.
I find Norzad interesting because the fact that Iowa is interested in him and Tyler Linderbaum just went to the NFL. They've had a long track record of having a really good center. I kind of see some similarities there where that might be a good fit. The idea, if he were to come to Penn State, I don't think that it's set in stone that Juice Scruggs is the center for next year. That might add competition to that particular position. I think that'd be very good for Penn State. But, I could see any of the interior positions for Nourzad being an open thing for him. But I just the way he played tackle when I watched him on film reminded me of the Arkansas center, where he just throws his body into people.
The Arkansas center is incredible.
Yeah, he was fun.
He's an incredible player. Yeah, I mean he's gonna be a top draft pick, right? Like maybe not first round, but I believe he's like top 50 or so.
He should be. Yeah, I haven't really delved into the draft as far as like names that aren't obvious to Penn State fans, but I was super impressed with him as a football player because he flew around the football field, and I see a little bit of that from Nourzad, of his ability to reach, block, and to do those things at center that Penn State needs in their system. So I don't think, for Penn State fans that are kind of piecing the line together, I don't think that it's just guard that he fits. I guess that was what I wanted to add about him. And then Steen is an interesting positional guy as well. So one or both of those guys clearly is important for Penn State. Lot to go over this week. Thanks for coming on the show. Always appreciate you having you here.
Hey man, we're coworkers, right? I mean, what do you want me to do?
Well, listen. You've got a lot of stuff to do, so I always appreciate.
Me up. I'm gonna go hang out now and do nothing. No, I'm kidding. I will work still, but of course, man, no problem. Let's do it again next Friday. Next Friday will be a good junior day, by the way. Next Friday is shaping up to be probably the best of the three, from what I've gathered so far. So that'll be one to tune in for, and we should have some good reactions after that. If there's going to be a commitment, it'll be immediately after this next one. From way things are, I sound like a weatherman right now. There's going to be a big one next week. Stay tuned.
Well, I was told there was supposed to be snow any of the last couple 24 hours, and that did not happen on Thursday. So we'll see. And you know what? No matter what happens, it's a great excuse to go subscribe to Blue White Illustrated. $1. Link is in the description of the video. The outro music is playing, so you got a couple things to do. Like the video. You watched the whole thing. You enjoyed it. You ate the whole candy bar. Then go click on that link, subscribe to Blue White Illustrated, and get Ryan's inside information before we get here next Friday. And then it's going to be a recap for you. You get to hang out, eat Cheetos, and have fun talking Penn State football with us. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr. We'll talk to you next week.